When I'm not extremely curious about the contents of the adult intimacy kit they give out at the Hard Rock Hotel, I like to answer questions I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Question for the next Q&A: how do you write or come up with catchy melodies like the one from the intro of your song Legacy? Is there any theory behind it, or does it happen naturally by accident? Great question. So for that one specifically, it sounds like this. Okay, so that's kind of like the intro to that song, and I'll link you below in the description if you want to check that out. But basically, like, now looking back on it, it's like, oh, here's like the minor scale, and then that riff uses the notes from the minor scale, but I totally 100% do not think that way generally when I'm writing melodies. Now, I think it's when it comes down to like choosing a chord to go under a melody, that's when I kind of like use my music theory the most, I suppose. But I think a lot of just knowing music theory is like having it to the point where you're not thinking about it, but it is kind of influencing like decisions that you make, and you're really just kind of following your ear. And to me, melodically, your ear leads the way more, and then the music theory kind of comes in when you want to kind of, harmonize things, accompany things. And that's just me. I know other people are different, but that's always been kind of my approach to melody, and especially writing guitar lines. And that hasn't really changed, even though I went from knowing absolutely no music theory and still playing a lot, and then kind of having like pretty working understanding and then still playing it. It's not something that is in the front of my mind, but I'm sure it is affecting me on some kind of level. Now that one specifically, like when you say catchy, right? And I take that as a compliment, so thank you. This one, like, it starts on an E, right? And it ends on an E. So I think there actually is some science that people have done behind that like the catchier earworm type riffs, or musical pieces, start and end on the same note, and then it can kind of go over and over and over again and get stuck in your head. So when it comes to like catchy stuff, maybe start thinking about where it starts and where it ends. And again, when I wrote that, I probably didn't even know that it was like an E note, and then I had to like come back to it. But this is kind of my philosophy on like, writing melodies. Just play around and have your ear kind of guide you. And then if you ever get stuck, hopefully you have a music theory background to be able to kind of find the next note. Hey Sean, wondering if I could get some advice in picking out a new guitar. I've been playing for almost 2 years after buying a $100-something beginner's Yamaha guitar, and I think I've outgrown the thing. And don't get me wrong, it's a great guitar, but I'm at the point where I'm looking for more and an acoustic electric. I've been doing research and even went down to Guitar Center for some help, but I can't seem to find something worth the price at this point. I love the Takumi Glen Fries, but they are pricey and I can't justify the cost right now. Also looking at some Taylor 2 series, those are beautiful toys, and then I went and heard the Yamaha A3 series, and they just had an old Western kick that I love to hear, and for the price, it was truly incredible. Just wanted to know what your thoughts are on stuff like this, and if there were any way for you to recommend within a price range. Love the vids, brother, they really help. Keep doing your thing, man. So yeah, finding a good acoustic electric guitar can be kind of like a daunting challenge, because I think you're totally right. There's kind of separations of, you buy a $100 guitar, maybe start playing. It's somewhat easy to outgrow that. Not that there aren't like, a lot of good options out there, especially in the used market. And then probably the next step up is probably somewhere between $500-600. And then the next step up after that is probably like a $1,000 guitar. Now, in my personal opinion, I think, between $1,000 and a $1,300 guitar, you can get like an awesome lifelong instrument that is going to be great. And then once you go beyond that, I think you're just kind of paying for bells and whistles. And it's not like I've heard like a $4,000 guitar that's any better than like a $1,300 guitar. To my ear, I think it just, it's just, like I said, just different kind of bells and whistles at that point. So I do think that in like the $500 to $600 range, the Seagulls are really good. I've seen Breedloves that are really good there. And the Yamahas, I always think are really, really great for the money, depending on how it's made and set up, which is why you always want to get your hands on one, okay? So really, if you're looking to step up, I do think that like a $250 acoustic guitar, I haven't seen a lot out there that are really like a step up from like, maybe like the lower level guitars. But eventually, after that $600 price point, I think there's a lot more available at like $1,000 range. Like the Taylor 2 series, like you mentioned, I think are really great. My main one is the Taylor 3 series, which again, back in the day was around $1,000. Faith Guitars just sent me this, that I'm probably gonna do a video on this. This is a 12 fret, which is in that range, and I think it sounds pretty good. But yeah, it just depends on if you want acoustic, electric, like you said. That's usually going to put another couple $100s on it if you want some kind of cutaway, stuff like that. But again, I'm a fan of the Seagulls in that kind of mid-price range. And then once you get into the Taylor 2 series, the 1 series is fine, but I think that like the Seagulls and Breedloves, I kind of prefer a little bit more than the Taylor 1 series in that same price point. But I think you're right on, like 100, 600, and then 1,000 and up. Those are kind of like the price points that I look at. I feel like you have the ability to grow a legendary mustache. You know, you might think that, and I appreciate the confidence, but I don't really have what it takes to grow like a solid stash. There's always just like little spots that never really fill in. So you're probably never, sadly, gonna see me with a stash, but that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate a good stash. So if you have one, wear it with pride. Originals versus covers. Why is it that singing guitarists play originals at all? Who cares about your originals? Nobody, usually, unless you already have a following of your songs, which is very difficult to achieve. Some solo musicians wonder why they don't get more gigs, and that's why. People get bored with your music. Again, unless you're a really brilliant composer who writes instant hit songs. I mean, that could be you, but it's very rare. Why don't you discuss the theme in the next video? Greetings. Well, I think playing originals is why a lot of people play music. Now, as someone who, when I play live with a singer, I usually do a lot of covers. Really, it's really more for them and kind of like more for the venue, but really kind of playing the original music is the reason that I even started playing guitar and one of the reasons that I keep playing guitar. If it were just covers, I wouldn't really want to have any interest. And I personally always appreciate when people play originals live, and I would most of the time rather listen to a bunch of live originals than covers, unless they're covers that are kind of done in a little different way than the song to kind of make it a little bit interesting. So you are right that to the point that like a lot of venues won't hire you if all you do are originals, but that's kind of why you want to sneak in every now and then, just have a good set, and then just like pepper your originals in there, and whatever it is to kind of keep you inspired to keep writing and performing, keep pushing the envelope. Because I just know like trying to write my own songs was really what made me a better player, because at that point you're not really just like seeing something like on a chord chart and trying to play something how somebody else plays it, whether it's effective or not. Just being able to use your own creativity and try to like bring something new to the table is really one of the reasons that like a lot of people, you know, play and stick with an instrument. So if you just play covers and you haven't like ever written an original, I definitely suggest you try doing it. And if you are playing originals and you're getting discouraged because nobody's like giving you a lot of attention, don't worry. That's just kind of it. You know, it's not like one person just writes hit songs. It's really just kind of like the attitude that people have when they go out. If they're not going to see you, they probably want to hear maybe something that they're more familiar with. So keep rocking the covers, and it's a great way to get exposure for your original music by just kind of like I said, just peppering them in there. Do you never do gigs by yourself and sing? So kind of in relation to the last question is, at the gigs that I do, generally I'll do a couple of my own songs just singing and playing. I usually don't do full sets like that, just because, you know, again, I'm usually with another singer and I don't want them to kind of just stand there and not do anything. But generally I do play and sing at least a few of my own songs at these gigs. But the city that I live in, Sarasota, Florida, isn't really like an original music type city. Pretty much all the venues and stuff are built more for kind of like a touristy cover song atmosphere, vibe, which is why all the original stuff I do is mostly just like online, which is something that I'm totally fine with. I can swing both ways, originals, covers, whatever. As long as I'm kind of up there playing, keep my chops up, I feel like it's still, at the very least, getting paid to practice. Why are those so-called loop teacher on steroids like we don't pick up anything but listening to a hyper idiot talking so fast that it is a tape waste and nobody learns anything? I'm not really sure exactly what any of that meant, except I'm pretty sure that it was a salty comment. So just trying to parse through a little bit of the madness of those seemingly random strewn together words made that one to the segment. An alternative title could be, how many songs have you known that you have now forgotten how to play, including songs you wrote yourself? The answer for me is a lot, a hell of a lot. Totally great point. I have forgotten exponentially more songs than I have ever learned. That's just kind of how it goes. And same with a lot of my students, and they'll kind of get discouraged because it's like, ah, crap, I spent all this time learning the song and now I can't even play it. I think that's kind of the total wrong way to look at it. The fact is, while you were learning that song, you developed a lot of techniques and you worked on your timing, you worked on a lot of different things going through it that if you were to relearn it, it would be infinitely easier than it was learning it from scratch. So again, if learning songs is kind of like your springboard into just playing the instrument, I think the value is kind of just like having that be your point of exercise and repetition for that point in time. The fact that you can't remember it, it happens to all of us. Like this guy said, forgotten how to play your own songs. I do that all the time. So like, which is funny too, because like it shows sometimes people request certain songs of mine that maybe they've seen online, and I'll be like, crap, I have no idea how to play that. I was not anticipating anyone request that. So yeah, don't get discouraged, because pretty much every musician in history has forgotten more songs than they currently could play right now. So for listening homework, I'm going to throw you to the opening track off the new Muse album, because why not? Muse is one of my favorite bands ever. The new stuff is pretty synthy, definitely doesn't sound anything like Origin of Symmetry or Absolution, which are, again, are like the albums that made me fall in love with Muse and just music in general. So, it's a totally different direction, which I respect. I think sometimes it works for them, sometimes it doesn't, but what you can always appreciate is the production value that goes into it, especially the music video for this one, because it's Terry Crews like working out and then going and doing computer programming. So it's ambitious. It's got, that big kind of bombastic operatic sound that Muse is known for, albeit in a different venue, so I'm supportive of it. Definitely check that out. Hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website if you have any questions. Also, I am going through the entries for the contest, and I'll probably be announcing the winner next week. So I'm going to go through all those this weekend, and hopefully we will crown a champion soon. Thanks a lot.